Well, good afternoon. Longhaultanker, straight razor shaving with Longhaultanker. And today is Sunday, November the 30th, 2025. I've got 3 days worth of whiskers on my face, just a little bit better than in terms of hours. It's probably about 4 hours plus 3 days. Anyway, going to do a straight razor shave, and I've got some things to talk about, as I often do. Here, I tell you what. Let me run through the equipment pretty quick. Got a nice, and I've moved over to my common vintage razors that I've got. I got 3 7-day roll-ups of those, and they're all in very good condition, or reasonably good condition. None of them are rusted out. And anyway, you'll see as I go along. But this is a F.W. Engels Soligen razor leader. And that's kind of what he was known for, is this moniker of leader razors. It's blued. You may notice that it is a kind of a gun bluing or something on there. It's 4/8 round point, and it's got beautiful variegated colored scales with these nice little bolster caps on the top and the bottom. And it's just a beautiful little razor. And if I remember right, this was honed up on a Arkansas, probably the hard black, surgical black. We'll see what it feels like as we go along. The further, with as many razors as I've got, as they go through rotation, I easily forget what they were, unless there's some reason that they stand out. My soap that I'm going to use today, and I don't use this a lot, but this is kind of like my standby soap, or that I carry with me in my shave kit, and that's C.O. Bigelow Premium Shave Cream, and somewhere down there it says eucalyptus. Made exclusively by Parasso for C.O. Bigelow, right there at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, with eucalyptus oil. And so, very nice, refreshing scent, and some of the other things that I've got will go along with that. And then my Sterling Soap Company 28 millimeter, made by Zenith, made in Italy, boar bristle brush. And somebody told me, and I remember picking up on this November from Greg Gallant, and somebody wrote me in the comments a few days ago on the last video that that's what November is for, is to take a boar bristle brush, use it, break it in, and it has no other significance or meaning other than using a boar bristle brush for the purposes of breaking it in. Now, it was new. This brush was new at the first of the month, or just 1 or 2 shaves new. I was going to say something, and I plumb forgot. But that's all right. It'll probably come to me in a minute. But it's had a good 15 shaves on it, 30 days in November. Every 2 to 3 days we're having a shave, so somewhere 10 to 15 shaves. All right, been soaking everything in hot water. and then a third dollop, a pretty good sized dollop, for the brush itself. Working it into the brush. But this brush is breaking in nicely. The ends are splitting. I wrote someone just this week about these Zenith Sterling boar bristle brushes, how wonderful they are, how unsurpassed they are. And when compared to some of these other brushes that are in the marketplace, and I hesitate to call names, but it's just hard not to. These people who have been in business for so very long, who have long, rich histories and traditions, cannot make a comparable or equally great brush as these Zenith brushes, and particularly these that are marketed by Sterling Soap Company, are just absolutely fantastic. Ever since they came out with this 3 years ago, they sell out every year, and it's just right at this time of year, Black Friday. I'm gonna see if I can just do a little more. All right, let's get on with the shave because I'm anxious to try this F.W. Ingalls Leader 4/8. And see what the edge feels like, what kind of stone. Now, the reason I just wiped off my lips there is I want to have a sip of my coffee. I just made a cup before starting the shave, and we're having Folgers 1850 Black Gold, which is just, I think, a fabulous coffee. All right. I got some things to say about my new build, my new DIY project in the backyard, a shed that my wife and I are building. I'll say more about that as I get started on the shave. I want to do that first. All right, little 4/8 here. And I've got a couple of these small 4/8 razors. They're just lovely as can be. So my wife and I, when we bought this property and saw what had to be done and so forth, we talked about possibly having a shed built of some, 10 by 16, 12 by something. And we even had some people come and start building, but they didn't build it out of the materials that we ordered and wanted them to build it out of. And when we couldn't come to, hold up there, buddy, you're not doing it right. And when we couldn't come to an agreement, they took apart what they'd already started to build and left. Well, the good news is we hadn't paid them any money. And the larger the shed, of course, the more money it was. And that's, of course, perfectly understandable. And so we decided to build it ourselves. And we got the materials all measured out. Oh, that's beautiful. Very nice. So anyway, we just settled on, my wife and I, we're going to do a 16 by 24, which is a very large shed. And so it's going to be a work shed, a storage shed, and a workroom. And we're going to put some work tables in there. And so we ordered the lumber from Lowe's Home Improvement. And we're taking the first stage of the build from zero to the point of having the walls and the studs all framed out. And the next stage will, we got some waterproof wrapping to put around it. So we got that. But once we're done with that, then the next stage is going to be rafters to get ready for the roof. And I did put up some pictures at the beginning of the video. We had put down the floor. We had put down some of the rafters, not rafters, but the walls with the studs. Then today we finished the 3 main sides, and the one side that remains is where we're going to put the door and a window. And we may put another window in on the back side wall, but we went ahead and put that wall up and decided that we could frame that to our convenience. We'll go ahead and, with the walls and the studs in place, we could go ahead and cut one of the studs and then frame in a window after the stud wall had been built and before we put anything on it, like a finishing product. And so that's where we're at right now. We'll get the remainder of the supplies and materials that we need as time goes on here. We're expecting a lot of rain this week. We had severe rain last night for a little while. I mean, it kind of messes up your schedule because they're saying it's 90% chance of rain. We're expecting 3 inches of blah, 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 and nothing comes of it. And so we took yesterday off because we were expecting rain earlier in the day, and it didn't start raining until almost 10 o'clock last night. So we wasted a whole day. But that's all right. We watched some movies together, my wife and I, and had a good time. But she and I are building this thing. We don't have any, at present, we don't have any outside help. We may get some later, maybe for the rafters, maybe for the roofing. I don't fancy being up on a ladder at my age or her age. She's 60, I'm 67, almost 67, 66. And no, I have no... And then lifting, let me tell you something. Lifting those sections of 12 foot and 12 foot for 24 feet, but one section at a time of the walls with the studs, and then the back end section that is 16 feet with studs. Now we braced it real good, and we gave ourselves some stops. Temporary stops so that when we lifted it, it wouldn't scoot away from us and scoot off the edge and fall over and so forth and so on. But I lifted that, and that thing must have been 200 pounds if it was an ounce. And so we got it up. My wife and I, my wife helped me. We got it up. And you're working your arms to try and get in a position to where you're like this. And then from here, you can start once you have it, it's your arms extended and the frame is up on your hands, then you start working down the studs to keep pushing to its maximum height and up against the temporary stays and blocks, so it gets into position the way that you want it to be. And then using the temporary supports, and you'll see in the pictures where all the temporary supports are, but that's how you get it up and in place without hurting yourself too bad. And then once you get it up and you get it squared at the bottom, and then on the bottom plate of the 2x4, on the rafter frame, not rafter, I said it again, the stud frame, then you put in your heavy duty structural screws, one per stud on the bottom plate, or what they, in construction, I guess, in framing, that's what they call the bottom plate. And my wife and I have no background in particularly no construction. I worked as a construction crew when I was a kid in high school, but not like this. Not like this. But we watched a video and said, hey, we could do that. Now, we're not exactly inexperienced. We're not exactly unhandy. And we've done a lot of projects, my wife and I together, but nothing like this. Nothing like this. But we didn't just decide to do this out of nothing. We were watching all these videos on building a shed and all these different improvements and stuff. And this guy that we ran across made it sound so simple. What he said made sense. And I have found that in my life as a pastor, as a seminarian student, that there are people who have a way of speaking, or perhaps it's just a way of speaking to you, that just makes what they say so understandable that you say to yourself, I want to do that. I can do that. And so we did. We bought the supply. We already had a good number of the tools that we needed because of other projects that we had worked on. But I will say the one big tool that we bought just for the fun of it was a DeWalt miter saw, 12-inch, 15 amp. Because those are the miter saw with the angles and the angle adjustments built into the saw. We're going to need that on the rafters. Well, I guess somebody would say we don't really need it, and you're probably right. And the other thing that we bought that we didn't already have was a 72-inch level. That's a big level, but I'm sure glad we did though too, because we've relied on it heavily on making sure that we are level, flat, and level. And then the squares, we got what I forget, Swanson Speed square. And there's two different sizes. There's a 7-inch and there's a 12-inch. And we got one of each. And they're not but $10 a piece and made out of a polymer plastic. And then there's a whole lot you can learn about angles and cutting from that. It's an amazing tool with all kinds of stuff. If you know anything about, or let me say it this way, if you've ever used one or have one and have taken the time to learn about it a little bit, it's an amazing tool of what it's got built in. The Swanson Speed square. All right, second pass. So I appreciate all the comments that many of you have sent regarding the build out that we're doing, the shed construction, and getting as far along as we did today. We were like a well-oiled machine, my wife and I, what we were doing to get those stud frames built and up. And as we moved, we did a let's see, I think we had that back wall or that side wall 24 foot done a couple of days ago before the rain. Today we did the 16 foot and two 12 foot sections for the front side 24 foot length that you see in the pictures. And it was like bang, 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 bang. I'd never considered before that if you're building an 8-foot wall, at what size do you have to cut the 2x4s to fit an 8-foot frame that will make up and comprise the wall? And so your studs, you know, a 2x4 is not a 2x4. It's like a 1.5 by 3 or whatever. And so you've got to subtract the bottom plate and the top plate from the length of the stud and cut that amount off. And in order to achieve an 8-foot ceiling, we had to cut off on an 8-foot stud or 2x4, cut off 6 inches. It comes down to 8 feet is 96 inches. We came down to 91.5 is what, and so from 91.5 to 96, that's what, so what was it, 5.5, whatever it was, that's what we had to cut off in order to account for the bottom plate and the top plate. Now, I did that largely because, now that's probably due to building codes that the guy that we were watching and whose instruction we followed. We probably could have built with the, you know, measured and cut to exactly 8 feet on the studs, bottom plate, top plate, then whatever steps we got to go through to create the rafters, because we don't have any building codes per se right here where we're at. Or we do and I don't know it. It's like the guy says in the video that we're watching. He says, if the inspector comes out because some neighbor complained, and then he paused and said, and you know that's the only reason why the inspector comes out is because a neighbor complained. I just thought that was hilarious. There's, in this place where we live, there's just so much oddity. In what people have on their yards, that I'm not worried about building inspectors. And I don't think there's just a whole lot of rules that we got to follow. And it's like the guy says in the video, it's just a shed. But always check with your building codes, local building codes. If you ever go to build something, especially if you're in some kind of a housing association, HOA, or municipality. Now, the guy that we were watching, you can only imagine. The guy that we were watching resides in Ontario, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And you want to talk about, I mean, they're about as socialistic up there as they come with all the rules and so if you don't have a lot of experience, but this is something that you're interested in learning to do, I would say start small, but do it. Do it. Just don't rush and don't do something that can't be undone. The old saying, measure twice, cut once, certainly comes to mind. And driving a screw into a joint rather than driving a nail gun nail to secure two pieces of wood together, do it with a screw first, because if you got to take the screw out, it's easier to do. Whoops, I messed up there. I need to take that out. Then after you got everything just the way you want it, it's flat, it's level, it's square, drive your permanent nail, remove the temporary screw, and you're good. And I'll tell you, I was amazed. I am amazed. I dropped a square, one of those Swanson speed squares that I was telling you about, into a corner, in two of the corners that we'd already, we're about 50% mounted. We've driven the structural screws, which are big, fat, 5 and 6 inch long things, through the bottom plate 2x4 into the 2x6. Well, through the 2x4, through the 3/4 of an inch flooring into the 2x6 flooring rafter below. Now, some might say that that was overkill. I don't know. But we were just following what the other guy said. And there's nothing wrong in exceeding. And this guy was saying, I want to build this thing, but there'll be some things I want to do that are beyond what the building code requires. Just because I want it to last, he says. Okay, well, yeah, I can kind of understand that. So when you go to look at the pictures that or as you look at the pictures at the beginning of the video, the top is not connected yet. Start from the bottom, work up. We're still getting the walls secured, squared at the bottom. And as we work up, we'll get those top pieces secured by a top, well, I forget what the word is right now, But we'll get it there. We'll get it there. Because the 2x4 piece that you see on top of the frames, that's not the final piece that goes up there. There is a top plate that binds it all together. And it's like the guy said in the video, the farther up you go and the more layers you put on, the tighter the unit becomes. And I just thought it was, and I saw it in plain evidence as we were driving in those structural screws, and they're huge. They're big, almost like a bolt, except it's more like a screwdriver. It's more like a screw with a star head driver on it, and you drive them down in. And like I said, they're about 4.5 to 5 inches long, and as that head sinks into that bottom plate, it just draws it all together. Tightly. I just thought it was fun. I'm having a ball doing this. And I can see where there's going to be maybe some places where I'm going to have to say that's about as far as I can go. The good news is I've met several people in the last 6 months, contractors, handymen, who've all said to me, if I needed anything, just let me know. And that's fine. I don't relish the thought of roofing. I don't relish the thought of laying roofing paper. I am kind of curious about building the rafters, but even that's going to require me to stand on a ladder. And that don't thrill me any so much, but I tell you what, if I could lift that 200 pounds, now I could have built that 16-foot wall in two pieces, two 8-foot sections, but I didn't. And when we got done building those and lifting them up, my wife and I, and got them in position and drove those structural screws into place and got them standing. Yes, they got some temporary braces on them, and you'll see that in the pictures. My wife and I were just amazed at what we have accomplished, especially today. The first big ooh moment that we had was after we had built the frame, the bottom frame with the rafters in the footers and so forth. Was when we measured it and it was square. Not just a little bit, but on the dot. And one of the things you learn in watching the videos, you take a long tape measure and you go from corner to corner diagonally. Corner to corner diagonally. And then you do it the other way, corner to corner diagonally. And the closer you are to the same number, the more square you are. And that's what you're trying to achieve is the same. And we were dead on. It was amazing. Some of the things I'm talking about may be old hat, old school. To you, you have knowledge, you have experience. I don't. I fell into truck driving out of necessity. As a pastor, and that's really what I am at heart. I am a Bible-believing Christian that went to seminary school, got my master's degree in theology, and for 15 years, full-time, part-time volunteer, I was in ministerial work of one sort or another. And the work itself I loved. It's often the case that it's the people you can't stand, because they're the ones that want to cut your throat and leave your dead carcass in the gutter waiting for the rats to pick you to pieces. And I've also learned too that there are certain professions and careers that unless you've got some money behind you, you can't maintain it. You can't maintain it. And there are some careers that, unless there's just the right chemistry that comes together to bring party A to party B and they have bonded, you'll not bond and you won't last. One thing I've learned over the years about this C.O. Bigelow soap, which I like very much, is that it dries out very quickly. It sticks to the blade and you gotta, that's all right. All right, I think we'll stop there for the face shave and move on to the head shave. But I'm going to go to my Fox Cutlery razor that I've been using for my head shaves here of late. Oh, gotta have another sip. All right, here's the Fox Cutlery razor, Soligen 5/8. Well, yeah, kind of. I don't know if you can see the. Is there a fox on there or is it on the backside? He's on the backside. There he is. All right. As is sometimes the case when you get into a project like this, you go to the store like Lowe's and overbuy. You buy 6 boxes of something when 2 would have done you just as well. And so we've got to make a run to Lowe's tomorrow morning. And we're expecting a rain day tomorrow, so that we won't be working in the yard, so it'll be a good day for a return run to Lowe's to get a refund on some of the products that we have bought and need to take back. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. But like I say, you got to be flexible. You got to roll with the punches. You got to use your time wisely. I wouldn't want to. It was a nice 70-degree day with sun shining. No, I'd want to be in the yard working. Boy, that's smooth right there. So it's been a little cool. Weather's turned cool across the country, and no less so here. We worked outside. The high today, as we were working outside, was 52 degrees, which is quite cool for Gulf Coast, Texas. I put my boar bristle brush down in the water, let it soak while I finish my head shave. All right, that's it for the head shave and the face shave. Let me set my razors aside in a safe place. Move a couple of things around here. All right. All right, we got our Ozma alum block. Okay, that feels good. Nothing harsh, mild sting on the face, just enough to know that, to let you know that you'd had a shave. Yep. And what I've done for the longest time, haven't always done this, but I learned a lesson to keep my alum away from my razors. And so off my hands, and there's some who will say use alum on your fingertips to stretch your skin while you're shaving. Okay, go ahead and tell me how that works out. It may work, but you're going to end up with black spots of alum stain on your $500 razor, and you're going to go, oh, what happened? Well, it's because you put your alum got in contact with your carbon steel and left a black stain. Ask me how I know on a $500 razor. All right. Let me go ahead and dump this water out of my basin. Do a quick rinse on my basin, do a quick wipe out, get it out of my way so I can do my refinements. Put that right there under the sink. Now, what's next? Oh, we're going to use a little Cremo post-shave balm. What's that say? Refreshing mint. And I'm not going to use a lot, just a little bit to put a little moisturizer back into my face. Just a little dollop like that. And as soon as it touches my skin, it almost feels like it's water. It just melts just that fast to absorb into my skin. I like the Cremo products. And I was going to use this as a pre-shave today, but I forgot. They're sitting right there in front of me, and I went with the C.O. Bigelow, forgetting all about the Cremo. But sometimes, I shouldn't say often, I really need to use it more because I got more than I need. And with my face massaging before the shave to moisturize my whiskers, I really don't need a pre-shave per se because my routine provides for a moisturizing and a pre-shave activity that thoroughly saturates and prepares my whiskers for departure. All right, so I did the balm. I feel good, nice and minty, nice and refreshing. So we're going to use some Osage rub, eucalyptus, scented. And so it's a good match for the C.O. Bigelow and the Cremo. And you know, a alcohol-based aftershave, after you shaved, without any preparation, you apply it straight to your shave immediately, apply it straight to your face immediately after the shave, set your face on fire. And you know what I'm talking about. But you use the alum block, use a post-shave balm with a little mint or eucalyptus or something. It gets your face ready for a strong aftershave. All right, that's it. I'm done. I want to thank you for staying with me. I want to thank you for watching me. The regulars, you know who you are. You always message me, and I appreciate it so much. The little things that you say, just, you know, I appreciate it. I'll just say that. Appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the build out, the DIY project. And thanks, Eric, for your comment. No, I don't plan to start a channel on that, but I'll post up my little I'll post up some pictures as I go along. I'll see you down the road.